We'll get into it.
67.
Episode number. Thank you. He knows me so well. All right. Wing It Podcast, goosedigital.com, episode 67. Who do we have?
Chris Adams.
Chris O'Neill. Kevin Butler.
Michael Turksani. Sorry, we didn't rehearse who goes first. Thanks, Chris. Welcome.
Guests first, I think.
Yeah, welcome. You can see my shadows from my lighting. Yes, thanks for joining us today, Chris. It's been a good convo so far offline. Now we're gonna go on air with the convo. Yeah, thanks for joining us. I know we've kind of known each other, and you've known about Goose, and we've known about you, and I think we had some past lives together. So this is great to sort of reconnect and get a take on what you're up to, and then talk, I think, a lot about content and content strategies. So why don't you give us an intro?
That's great, Michael. Thanks. And it was great to behind the scenes discuss going back, into the early 2000s around content management and Hot Banana and web hosting, and then getting into the G Shift and a life around that for me, and knowing Goose Digital at that point in time. Right now, I started 5 years ago a company called Adams Hamilton, and Hamilton is my middle name, and I kind of wanted to create an awe moments for my clients. So I called it Adams Hamilton, and I did rank really well in the search engines until the Hamilton sort of New York Broadway show came on, and then all of my search results are gone now because Adams and Hamilton are both two presidents that were happen to be featured in that play. But in reality, I went on to be only a shareholder at G Shift. That was acquired in around 2018 by a company out in Vancouver called Mintent. So Adams Hamilton's been hyper-focused around content strategy. And there needs to be this branding, this aspect of cadence, this aspect of non-salesy content. And obviously Goose Digital is very aware of that in the industry that you're in. And it's really tough for when you're inside the fishbowl to sort of see that content and how it can be kind of produced to the audience types that need to. And then obviously as Goose Digital is aware, you guys are helping your clients understand, what are the stages of the sales process, and how do we engineer that within our B2B, Pardot platform, and how do we help you achieve those efficiencies in your sales? So that's cool. So Adams Hamilton, we do the content part, and we help put that into systems and work with agencies like yourselves. Part of my other day-to-day life is I've invested in, and I'm on a number of boards of software companies. And I happen to be an entrepreneur in residence at Georgian College's Innovation Center. It's called the Henry Bernick Entrepreneurship Center, and also Ryerson DMZ. I have a portfolio of some software companies that I support through Ryerson's innovation program.
And you're in a band, which we just learned about.
Well, in the post-COVID world, I'm in a band. It's called Sonic Coalition, and the mayor, the city of Barrie mayor, is the drummer in the band. We've kind of like our community giving is to be, provide our entertainment value to support any kind of fundraising mechanisms, for hospice or an art gallery or the hospital, things of that nature.
It's awesome.
Now, do you write the bio for your band? Are you the content writer behind that?
I have been the shaper of the name changes. The band's name has changed a bit over the years, and I think we've nailed the Sonic Coalition part. You don't really want to know what it started like at the beginning.
I bet. Awesome. Well, that sounds really good. We've been talking about content a lot lately, actually. And I think, just some observations, and then I think we're just, really we're just having a discussion today about this topic. But Goose gets brought in we've sort of pivoted our messaging a little bit, Chris, into, away from the marketing automation experts, and earlier this year, I guess a few months ago, we pivoted our messaging towards sort of helping drive marketing performance, and automation and some of the MarTech and the digital marketing demand gen is obviously part of that whole story. But where we've sort of observed the biggest sort of inflection point when we get brought into deals a lot of times is there's a lot of emphasis on the systems, or getting what we might call the plumbing of your pipeline, and the drip campaigns, and how that would all kind of flow together. And the content conversation is almost like an afterthought. We'll look at some of these programs and evaluate them like within the system, and look at them sort of critically and say, like, I'm not sure this is actually like meeting the strategic objective here. But they're asking us to sort of wire all this stuff up and get into the programs and what have you. So I'd like to maybe start the conversation off, because I think that's where we're about to go. Like, how do we attach the content to the strategy to the business strategy?
Great question. And I think this is one of those things that I'm certain all of your clients are challenged in this way. And really, it comes down to their lives are very busy. They're obviously already trying to achieve, while they're working with you to try to improve their operations. They're probably needing to meet certain targets every quarter and every month, and they're challenged in their normal day-to-day sort of work. So getting some silent time to achieve, hey, let's think about some content ideas, and let's think about how we can write this stuff, it probably is just a challenge. And so within that realm, I'm certain you guys go through the whole archetype of, like, what are your audiences, what are your segments, what do they sort of want to know, what software do they use, what's the SWOT analysis of exactly what they're doing. And then start to look at, okay, if I was at stage one, what kind of content do I need? Sort of an awareness, like, campaign, which is your typical, blog fluff, you can call it that, or, it's just getting your brand out there and kind of showing that something. The second layer would be, they're a little bit more, hey, I'm engaging you a little bit more. I need to know where you're positioned in the category. Are you checking off a lot of the things that I want? Are there some things that are cool? Is there things that are missing in your offering that, might be a deal breaker for me? I need to know that kind of thing. And that can kind of go with webinars and lead generation, like, white papers. Then we might get into another layer, which would be, hey, I need to now arm myself. Okay, I'm your champion. Convince me. If I'm going to get something going in my organization, I need evidence. I need help. I need help as a champion. So now I need a white paper. I need a proven sort of ROI, or more white papers that I can kind of push up the food chain to whoever's going to be signing off as part of this program. That could be the CIO, it could be a CTO, it could be your accountant, it could be the president of the organization. But I need to be armed as your champion. And that content strategy, needs to be built into your pipeline. As you're challenging your clients, you sort of think about, what are the stages of life that people deal with you, as much as if they're trying to achieve, it depends. I'm not rambling on here. And
no.
There's the accountant type that wants to know, hey, I want to be able to predict every quarter, my total potential income for that quarter or month, based on, you have 10 leads at 10%, and you have 3 leads at 70%. And, what's the math on that? You've got that person internally. And then obviously you have the sales and marketing people that are like, hey, there's only a few people here. We need to try to utilize, a B2B software platform to help, make us look like we're 6 people, and try to figure out the methodology to get me to only talk to the right people in the pipeline. And so that's, you're the architects, and you're doing some digital transformation. And it's probably, for some clients, a challenge just because it's change management, and change management's, hard as it is, and as we all know. So those are all the
100%, yeah, 100%.
Fun parts of the change. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say a couple things there on the change management. Maybe then I'll turn it over to Kev because I think that's a really good point. There's this, we broadly bucket our customers into two camps. One that we refer to as Goose Extend, where they really have their strategies largely driven by them. And what they need is sort of consistent extension of their team through different capabilities in marketing operations dimension. So they have gaps in their group, but their strategy, whether their strategy, delivers results or not is a different story, but it's really being driven by them. They've got a good handle on it, and they use us as an extension of their team. And then we have another group where we refer to them almost as this transform, to your point on digital transformation, where that strategy dial is much more in our court to help them guide and understand. They're usually in the infancy stage of their marketing overall, contributing to their business growth. So they're going through that change management process, and they're going through learning really about how do I put together messaging that is going to resonate, like, all those different stages. These businesses are been around for a while. They've grown, however they've grown through traditional sales or otherwise. And now they're looking at putting their brand out there, and they're testing this messaging out. What's going to resonate with somebody that is looking to, you had a client, they were talking earlier about buying more olives, and it's interesting because some of the things that they may come up with or instinctively say, well, this is what it is, and this is our value prop, and this is what we've been doing for 35 years. That doesn't easily translate onto a Facebook or a LinkedIn or your campaign level lens. So that can be, a very tough place to play. We like being there because we think it adds a lot of value. And if you get help a customer through that process, very rewarding. But, obviously it's not an easy process. A lot easier for us to just all go, be an extension to Nike or, any one of these big brands that know what they're doing. So
I like that extend, and definitely that's much needed in the marketplace. As people are, possibly moving in and out of an organization, you're that steady rock that's there, and you understand the KPIs that one and the goals and visions that the client wants to achieve, and you're helping those individuals achieve those results and be that sort of rock. And provide that expert knowledge on the B2B sort of sales and marketing systems that you're putting in. Excellent.
So I guess from my perspective, Chris, Adams, I was kind of curious, what kind of trends and shifts have you seen in content or content deployment over the last few years? And where do you think it's going in the near-term future as marketers listen to this and think, okay, how am I thinking about 2022 and beyond?
It's a great question. I think we'd have to break down into a B2C and a B2B kind of conversation. Maybe we can start in the B2B realm.
Yeah.
Within the B2B realm, I still believe that Twitter and LinkedIn are probably the number one ways to reach the audience that you're trying to get at. I think a lot of people are still not, I would say, getting towards first base in terms of knowing how do I boost content in Twitter or LinkedIn, and knowing that you don't have to sort of cut off your arm and spend 10 grand in a Google keyword campaign. You can start small, hundreds of dollars, and try to really narrow that boost of that post down. So if you were to write a white paper or some sort of download that you think is going to achieve some results as part of your drip program, then try boosting a little bit in Twitter and LinkedIn, baby steps in that area. And as you start to learn, do more, because the way I look at it is sort of like starting a tribe. If you only have a few hundred followers on your company page, it's hard to sort of see results if you're just constantly pushing that content out on your company page. Now we need sort of a tribe. You need to boost that other people's sort of
A
campfires.
paid element. Yeah.
Paid element, and
Mhm.
and that could correlate with finding the right influencer. And I know an influencer is one of those things that you talk about with a B2C sort of campaign. We can get to that, but finding a B2B sort of influencer to help achieve or write, that could be simply just a partner or a partnership. So for example, one software company is a partner with another, try to figure out how to co-write a case study or a white paper, and make sure both companies sort of share it. Thus the result is that much better. Potentially if you were a smaller software company or a smaller company in the GTA or Canada, and you're trying to expand into the States, finding that right partner in the States to do just that. On a B2C standpoint, I do think that the influencers are still the way to go. Again, I wouldn't spend money on just large numbers of influencers. I would find the right sort of real person. And I'll give you an example. Chickpea Pasta is a pasta company out of Collingwood. About a few years ago, when it was sort of first starting out, we were venturing into the Seattle region, and we hired 3 influencers, like a yoga sort of fitness person, a naturopath, and possibly a doctor. I forget who it was. The three people started writing recipes and blogs for about 3 months, and they equally reshared their content in that Seattle area. When the product hit the shelf, the store managers, the retail managers were shocked. People recognized the brand. They were buying it right away. It really helped in that initial sort of first month, when typical retail products could possibly fail because they're not being seen
Purchased. Yeah.
Now, those 3 influencers were all somewhat local to that particular market.
And we found them locally. So we try to really obviously a budget can drastically change a strategy, but if you have sort of, I call them micro budgets, if you want to attack LA or Chicago or whatever you're doing, who could you find in those areas, and kind of hyper focus your budget just in that. Thus, you're not getting this diluted messaging out. And that could be an idea for a B2B client as well. How do you hyper focus and not fall under that, I want to reach everybody, but hey, how about we just try to focus in on just one thing at a time, and see kind of the results of that.
Yeah, I think there's been lots of studies on influencers too in the past, where it's not like the super huge influencers, the Kim Kardashians of the world. This is on the B2C side, making the biggest impact with audiences, but rather it's more of the mid or micro level influencers that really have a lot of authority in a specific domain. And I think you can see the same thing happening in B2B, where you don't have to go and get, I don't know, the main analyst at Gartner to write about you to have a compelling message or white paper or whatever the particular asset is. I think it's all about nuanced expertise in a particular category or subject.
Absolutely. And I've seen data over and over again where that, the Kim Kardashian individuals that have a million, followers, their sort of influencer results are less than the person that has 5,000 that are really followed, really trusted, if they say something. The one other piece of advice I have, if you're going down the road of influencers, is not thinking of it as hey, let's just pay someone one time, one share, or whatever that might be. I really believe if it's going to be authentic and building knowledge leadership, you have to work with that influencer for at least 3 months, and they need to kind of produce 2 or 3 pieces of content, and they have to do it in sort of their way versus you trying to push this sort of the information on them. And that's a challenge, to overcome that, because sometimes people really want to push, this is what we want to say, versus allowing that influencer to really understand what they think they should be, saying to their followers.
Yeah, I can see that being, hard for brands to swallow, and playing that balance, even, for the influencer as well, playing that balance, that they're not too commercially focused for their audience, right? And we've seen even the people that I would follow, every now and then you see something and you're like, that might kind of be on the edge of selling out, but maybe not, and it's not so bad. But then there's other times where, you can really feel that it is authentic, and there's probably a process. Maybe you could speak a little bit to like the process that you would go through to get that alignment. You're not just buying the next yoga instructor, but like, how do you suss them out, and maybe talk a bit about that.
Yeah, again, finding the right people would be either I prefer, if the clients already have a relationship with them, or somehow there's you're 2 degrees of freedom off from that individual, and it creates a nice relationship in that manner, versus sort of going down to maybe like an influencer like agency and saying, hey, I want to drop this much money in a budget, and find me 10 heartbeats that kind of resemble me, and I don't know who they are.
Sure.
But you make the magic happen. I don't know. I'm sure that is successful. I think it's probably successful if you have a lot of money to play with in terms of pushing it. If you're more of if you have a conservative like budget and you want to test it out, I would highly recommend really like truly, finding the right people, calling them and having that sort of personal connection and truly talking to them and expressing your brand values, and working directly.
Seeing if it resonates, see if it's a fit for them, right? Yeah, good point.
Something you were talking about earlier, Chris, about not taking, again, this whole sort of balance of sales and marketing. It's been big shifts going on, obviously, and even 5 or 6 years ago, it was like if you didn't have a super strong CTA at the bottom of your email or the bottom of your blog, it's like, what's that for anyways? But now I'd love you to talk about those different sections of the sales funnel, if you will, or the realization funnel, and sort of like how do you help a client sort of with the general process? So you're talking to people who need to sell stuff, but how do you sort of walk them through, here's the sort of areas that we need to focus on from a content standpoint that will that will have the right impact. So like one sort of, not to sort of dictate what you talk about, but one of the things has always been sort of collecting data. So for example, you wouldn't put a blog up without gating it. 5 years ago it was like you gate everything because you want to get that that email address. But the reality now is that you need to basically offer. You need to sort of throw something out there, offer, get that sort of the inferred sort of audience, as opposed to the explicit kind of like, I will give you this if you give me that. Let me talk about creating content for this new world where it's like you can't just ask for the order every time you set out something.
Yeah, I agree. First of all, Chris, I love that. That should be a blog right there. If it's not this realization funnel, and I do like that term. I would say that's the first time I've heard that in terms of realization, instead of just calling it the sales funnel.
Awesome.
That's cool. In this realization funnel, if we were to break it down into like 3 sections, just to make it a very simple one. And sometimes that's like a baseball analogy that I use, first, second, third base kind of thing. You can't kind of get to third base without sort of traveling on first and second. And to get to think about like, how do you get someone to read a white paper and then, say that you're going to do a deal with them is going to be, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's one of those things where you got to educate them along the way on first base and second base. And so those are the typical blogs and or podcasts or, snippets. I call it bite, snacks, and meals. A meal being like a white paper. Bite, snacks, and meals are, little tidbits of things in Twitter and LinkedIn that lead to a blog. The snack is a blog when I only have an attention span of like 3 minutes or to 5 minutes of a read. And I'm hoping that I'm catching you at that point. I'm hoping that you start to maybe follow me on Twitter or follow the brand on LinkedIn, or I get talking kind of B2B specs here. And then as things start to occur and maybe I get your email address, that's where in the system I could start pushing you to, a webinar or that, that case study or that white paper that's going to hopefully challenge you on your thinking. Where are you at strategically in your decision process, in your needs at that point in time? Another layer just to add into that is vitamins and painkillers. And I love to use this analogy in my own sort of mentoring and advising. And I've been guilty of it in my own sort of startups. We all want to sell something, and it's like a Fred Flintstone vitamin. People, I can take it, I can get more efficient, but sometimes it's not really top of my agenda because I don't need it. I'm not dying tomorrow. Therefore, I can probably wait. And waiting is a terrible word, to hear in the sales process. And painkiller is sort of like, hey, I need to get to the store right now. Shoppers, get some aspirin. I got a headache. I don't care. I'm going to drive there. I'm going to get it. I'm going to buy it right now. So when you think of these things, the content itself in the awareness stage could be sort of vitamin-like, but as you transition, trying to drive up and kind of invigorate that pain when you get to stage 2 and stage 3. What is this? Trying to get deeper into the pain, the wound that the client might have, so that can elicit, yes, I do need to sort of move this a little higher up on my to-do list, and challenge my internal team to do a demo or talk a little bit more. So those are a couple of analogies I use with clients. I hope that answers your question, Chris.
I like the categorization there. I mean, I think even helping a customer through that thought process in the lens is that you just provided, the bite snacks and meals, I think is a good one because it helps them understand that they need a few different types of content, not just the big ones and the big ones only, which I think many organizations kind of think that way. They put all their emphasis on this one webinar and that's it. They don't snip it out, they don't break it down, or they don't have even a thought on the sort of the rest of the rounding out of the process and the various stages of the realization funnel. But I was also going to say that painkiller is a good one because I think, I'm not sure that we even sort of think about it like that all the time in terms of sort of really driving focus to that type of a lens. And then it's like, oh yeah, what are those real pains, and thinking through, I guess, not just how we solve a problem, but like what is the buyer going through, and getting different, I guess, feedback from customers and just from the customer service team and everywhere else. Like, yeah, what are the types of challenges that may not be obvious? I mean, we've got software, we've got whatever happens to be that we're selling, and we know it solves problems, but we don't always know exactly what pain someone might be going through at any given time in an organization. So that's a cool lens. Yeah.
Maybe
go ahead, Kevin.
Oh, I had a different question. Maybe if we just want to finish this, I'll jump into mine after.
I was just going to say, like, it's a great approach to the content situation, if you want to call it that, where you guys are offering like 3 levels. There's digital transformation, there's the change management that's happening. We're trying to go, and get people to use this new pipeline and the definitions where they might be at, and that's a challenge on its own. And then looking at, okay, how do we design content, not only sort of put out there in Twitter and LinkedIn, but how do we now kind of get it into if I am not here in the stage, are these the 3 blogs that I might need, to be sort of pushed to me to get me to that next level, which would be interesting. So those are and how do you arrange that and do that I like to do an iterative. approach rather than trying to say, hey, you know, we can't go live until we have all of this done approach. We have to sort of like, we have to get it out there. We have to scrape our knees. We have to get agile, and we got to kind of work. A year from now, we're going to be great. We're going to be like in kindergarten on day one, and we're going to have to work our way through this together approach.
Yeah.
I think, you know, there's so many conversations we're a part of, and this is more on the B2B side, where content marketing is sort of the great unknown and the most impossible task. In that, a lot of marketers we speak to, and it's any range of extremely senior, very sharp marketers through to marketers who are newer in their careers. And it's sort of the same. And I was kind of curious from your perspective, what do you think the top challenge is for B2B marketers as it relates to content? Why is it this thing that they just can't wrap their heads around and ultimately sit down and write a compelling, whether it's white paper or a series of emails that speaks to the value props that they do know inside and out?
I think like your clients, it's a great question, first of all. I think everybody probably has the, if they had the right time and the right clarity and to allow them to do it, I'm pretty certain they could get those ideas, you know, out of their heads and get it down on paper. It's the, as we're all aware, even this work from home situation and all these things, there's so many little inputs that are happening. It's hard to find the clarity to get it out. My approach really is like, you know, simply, you know, get sort of as simple as get Trello. It's like a post-it note sort of board. Start to get I classify it as every idea is great. Let's start there. You got an idea, let's put it in there. Let's back it up. And then let's tag it. Is this a stage 1? Is this a stage 2? Is this a stage 3 or a 4 in your pipeline kind of message or talk? How come we don't have any stage 2 or stage 3? How come all these ideas that we have right here only like, you know, the fluff, the awareness stuff?
Or the selling stuff, or the bottom,
or the selling stuff.
Yeah.
But you're saying, Chris, like aligning all content ideas around the different stages of an entire journey of buying, whatever those stages may be.
We need to have the journey there, and it needs to be sort of tagged. And then, again, once you sort of have these ideas and you have them tagged, they could be like press releases, again, to case studies. And again, there could be different aspects of why you might do something or not. One is more about branding and awareness, you know, if you're trying to raise money or you're trying to be noticed a bit more in a partnership, or, you know, maybe the software company wants to be sold, you know, 3 to 5 years from now. How are we shaping that to do that? How do we leverage a trade show? That's one, maybe if we break it down into that, like how do we, I think the biggest compelling piece too that I think a lot of marketers need to realize is like, I got a lead from a trade show, or I got a lead from, as you said, Kevin, that webinar that we just did. And how do we engage that lead, get them into the sales funnel, and then the working mechanisms that we have sort of set up? What are the stages to get that sort of special event? What are we going to do after besides the regular, hey, thanks for attending, you're awesome, and, you know, please follow us kind of message.
And I think that's partially where you were going, Kev, too. I think what I heard was that, you know, not just the I think what you spoke to, Chris, really around that process, I think that takes a lot of the load off by that, you know, from a whatever junior, senior, whatever team, marketing team. It's like, okay, now we can see where it is. Every idea is a good one. Let's start with that, and then we bucket them out. But I think the other thing that you were getting at, Kev, was the ability to actually write compelling, like to align that you know, that pain or that whatever stage and create something. And I wrote down, and I'm not sure if you see any of this, Chris, in your journeys, but storytelling, you know, brand marketing, certainly my background, I think maybe Kev's is a little bit different, but I certainly came kind of out of technology, right? And then through that really slammed into marketing technology, you know, early days of SEO and all that kind of stuff. And you had to, you know, you had to dial into the systems, but I feel like there's been a wave of talent that just came through marketing technology. I would throw
Yes,
myself
yes.
in this camp where we don't really know how to tell stories. We don't really know we don't know much about brand marketing. We don't, some of these things that like, you'd probably have years ago when you didn't get confused by the, hey, I'm a marketer, but really what am I doing all day long? I'm putting together emails and, having to go tweak Google and tweak the audiences in LinkedIn. And it's so much of that. I'm going to just say kind of the technical side of the operation side of marketing now. And then you ask these team members to say, hey, you know what? While you're doing that email, can you actually critically think about what it's saying? And they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I'll do my best, but I don't, like.
That's absolutely happening, particularly at B2B.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree with you guys on that, and it's a challenge, the storytelling. I think one message to your clients would be like, if this was like the early 2000s, you might be able to do one message and it might be perceived because there wasn't a lot of websites and content out there, and the possibility of being discovered, was quite high. Now we're in the year 2021, and the competition is so strong. The outputs that you might have in your brain from looking at Twitter or LinkedIn as an executive, or looking to educate yourself in certain areas. Don't be scared to sort of push that same post out, multiple times through the year, or people have to see it like, probably 6 to 10 times before they start recognizing it and maybe click on that blog post. It might resonate at that point in time. And the potentiality of writing sort of an A/B, like have two different compelling sort of blog abstracts or titles, but it's the same sort of blog, because it's possible that one could be written in a positive light, or maybe you have a negative way of stating the same content, and then you test that sort of one blog post out. Those are possible ways of trying, Michael, as you're thinking, like try to achieve those results. And kind of getting back to Kevin's question from before, how do we get clients to achieve awesome results? I tend to believe that, what we do at Adams Hamilton is we do like the old-fashioned journalistic approach. We use like Trello. We figure out your ideas. We start to look at how other people are writing those sort of things. We look at what the keywords are of what Forrester might be talking about. We then start to interview the executives or the people on the team, and we record it. And then, just like you would be writing an article for Canadian Business Magazine, and I was interviewing you guys on being in there, the exact same way. And then all of a sudden, your blog post is written. And now it's probably like 80 to 90% accurate. And now all we have to do then is work with that fine tuning, which people can do over a beer or a glass of wine at night. And then they can kind of fine tune that blog, send it back, and then we packaged it. So we were able to reduce, I call it friction. Nobody likes friction. So the friction in the room is time, and time is the person's time to sort of write that grammar properly. We take that away, and that friction is gone.
Do you think some of that friction is also rooted in just starting with something? I think a lot of people know what they don't want when they see something, and then the ideas get going. It's okay, well, I'm thinking more like this, and then you really get somewhere. But you, as that content creator, is probably largely tasked with just starting something to get the ball rolling.
Absolutely. And one way of doing that, kind of get the ball rolling, is you could either do a top up or a bottom down approach. I kind of like the bottom down approach. It's like start with like the 7 things that someone's going to get when they use your software. What are those value propositions? Or what's different in the world today that you need to think about if you're buying a platform or if you're doing something? Okay, those 7 things then could be then broken down into 7 blog posts. And then those 7 blog posts could be broken down into 2 video interviews with the client that turns into a 2-minute video. And then also it could be a bunch of sprinkling of snacks, of snippets in Twitter and LinkedIn based on that. Now you have this bite snack meal concept, but it's all around one sort of leading up to one webinar. So now you have this strategic approach towards the webinar, and you have the assets built that are driving for that one webinar or that one theme for that time period. And that could be an easy potential approach with one of your clients.
Yeah.
You look at the different platforms, Chris. I was just going to ask you about your take on sort of the type of content that you would recommend for the different platforms. Obviously, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter.
Email.
So, and email. Pardon me. Yes, absolutely. So there's all those different sort of channels to populate as a B2B customer. Maybe some more than others, but do you sort of like guide your customers around type of content per channel?
Yes, they're definitely between B2C and B2B. Again, let's try to tackle the B2B one first. Definitely sales and marketing aspects of Twitter and LinkedIn. So you could have blog posts, and you could have press releases in there, and you could have white papers in there. Even on a B2B standpoint, there's this thing of culture and HR and branding, and we live in a world now where human resources are a commodity, and you're not a commodity anymore. You have to really try to get the right people on your team. So we have to sort of brand as well to getting new people to join our tribe or our team. And so even if you're B2B, you have to utilize sort of more B2C like platforms such as Instagram or Facebook, things of that nature around the life of an employee and why it's great to work in your organization. And again, you guys achieved, which is wonderful, the Great Places to Work certification. And I think that's an amazing thing. And I think that is like something that, most organizations need to start doing. And that again is a possible for you guys, that'd be a possible press release and a, potentially a blog post on why it's great to work at Goose and, the typical kind of things. And you could showcase Susie in marketing and how she works from home with her dog. And that could be the edge for yourselves even to attract the right people to your team.
I love that comment, Chris. That's actually a really good example. Not that this particular episode's about us, but it sort of embodies the whole 360 view of the company. We depict that message to our clients as a message of stability of talent and that they're trusting us, which is all authentically true. We represent it to prospective employees who are absolutely looking at us and saying, do my personal beliefs align with that of this organization I'm considering working for call it a few years, and it's going to be a big part of my life. I think you're totally right on. It's a 360 view, not just to say sell some more stuff.
Yeah, and if you're totally agree, and then we get back into the B2C companies, I would not I might put press releases and the reasoning behind the positioning of the organization and its growth and things maybe in Twitter and LinkedIn. But obviously, if I'm trying to sell the product itself, I'm doing a lot of positioning in Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and doing those things and engaging influencers if I'm like a brand. But again, I'm trying to raise money and I'm trying to build awareness from a corporate level. I'm obviously
need some of that too. Yeah.
I keep forgetting TikTok. I keep forgetting about TikTok, and thanks for bringing that up because I'm really interested in that.
You're active on TikTok, Chris. I mean, you're doing TikTok videos now, and
I think there's a viable B2B play on TikTok.
And don't forget Snap. I mean, I know.
Oh, Snapchat. Yeah.
And I know the president of Snap, he used to be worked in the sort of the SEO sort of realm back in when he did the trade shows in New York and San Francisco. He is now the Canadian Snap president. And, these guys with that acquisition as an example of, what was it? Wasn't Sports Network that was just acquired by a betting sort of organization in the States?
Oh, you're talking about Score, I think.
Score, yeah. So they're going deep into TikTok and they're doing all the gaming and how you bet and how you gamble kind of videos to the youth. to try to get them to, because it's cool to bet on sports apparently. We're trying to do that, trying to use Snap to do that.
100%.
But don't forget about YouTube. Now, I mean, the power of YouTube is interesting too because of search results. It's all about like, and people are doing a lot of keyword, like using 4 or 5 keyword phrases to find things in YouTube now. So like, forget about the video aspect of taking whatever you've written, but trying to think about, how do I interview the president? How do I interview whoever it might be or a client? Getting that 1 minute to 2 minute sort of segment out there in YouTube. Those keywords again can rank in the video section in the Google search results. So don't ever that YouTube's still a huge sort of play, especially for B2B players.
Great.
100%. I was gonna call it the Sonic funnel, but then Chris stole my thunder and called it a realization. But I figured I would take part of your band's name and chop it up.
We could do some.
The Sonic funnel sounds way better than realization.
Yeah, it's more.
I think that's the name of a new company, Michael. Sonic funnel.
Yeah.
There you go.
Trademark that.
Yeah, that could be like
Pipeline attribution software.
Yeah, pipeline attribution software. Yeah. I was gonna say like a it's a B2C play on like shotgunning beers. The Sonic funnel. You get it down a little faster.
That would go well with the band.
Yeah,
it could.
I think that's pretty much a wrap today, unless anyone else has anything to throw on. I mean, I think it would be great to have you again, Chris, but why don't you, thanks for doing this, and why don't you just let everyone know where they can check you out?
Sounds great. Thanks. It was a pleasure, Michael and Chris and Kevin, just to get to know Goose Digital more. Definitely there's an alignment there. And you can check out adamshamilton.ca. It's a site based on top of Medium. Is really the technology that's driving my, sort of corporate site. And all it is all the blogs that are on there are all sort of just conversations that I have that month. And then if I've repeated myself a couple of times, I write it down in Trello, just like I was talking about. I then go into an abstract kind of way. I then apply the same, my writers on my team write it for me. I edit the grammar and the SEO at the end and kind of polish it and then get it out. So I use my own sort of dog food or process to do it, because I know personally my friction is
Sure.
that time to get it done. I know that's my weakness, so I need to have that as well. And you can follow me on Twitter at Chris H. Adams, or find AdamsHamilton _. And those are the places. And again, on LinkedIn as well, I would be publishing content that would resonate around digital transformation or change management, and typically around content strategy.
Awesome. I definitely think we should be doing a follow-up conversation on the partnership here and seeing how we can get some of that content strategy stuff that you guys do embedded into our strategy team. So that's really cool. All right. Well, thank you. That's a wrap.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
See you guys.